So, we're going to call the regular meeting of the Sherman Village Board to order. Mr. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Trustee Gray.
Yes.
Trustee Hahn.
Yes.
Trustee Long.
Yes.
Trustee Rockford.
Yes.
Trustee Schultz. Trustee Tim.
Yes.
Trustee Schultz has an excused absence.
Village President Clapholter.
Here, that is 6 members of the village board answering the roll, quorum being established. We're going to proceed with the order of business as set forth on the agenda. For the record, today is Tuesday, July 21st of 2020. We're at the Village Hall, 401 St. John's Drive in Sherman, Illinois. The time is 6 p.m., and this is a regular meeting of the Sherman Village Board of Trustees. Before we get started this evening, I have the 2 newest assistant mayors for the Village of Sherman, and we're going to transfer all powers and duties to them, so they are in charge of Sherman for the rest of the evening. How's that sound? So Katrina Renee Clapp is here, as well as Addison Kellenberger. So they are mayors for the evening. The first thing we need to do when we start this meeting is we need to ask everybody to stand and face the flag. And with the both of you, we're going to stand and face the flag right here. You guys are going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and you're going to start it off, okay? So we're going to go after you. So when you're ready.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. You want to hang out up here for a little bit? For a second?
So you guys can share the chair, possibly?
Yes.
All right.
Nice to see where I usually do. I'm on strike 2 anyway. One more strike and you're in.
All right, so when you're the mayor, you follow an agenda, okay? It's got to be posted on the village website, and it's got to be posted for everybody in the town to see, so they know what kind of business that we're going to do on their behalf. And so what we've done is we've posted this agenda, so anybody who wants to look and see what the village board is going to enact or talk about, they can see it from the comfort of their home or even on their phone, and then they may want to decide to come up and talk to us about any issues in the village, especially if it's on the agenda, right? So here's what the agenda looks like. So we need to set the agenda for this meeting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically stipulate that this agenda has been posted 48 hours in advance of the Open Meetings Act, and no action items can be added to the agenda, but I'll recognize any of our trustees, and these are the individuals that our town elects, as well as the mayor, for any discussion purposes. And so, are there any trustees seeking recognition for the discussion purposes only? Okay, so seeing none, the chair, that means since I'm the chair for being mayor, I say the chair will entertain a motion to set the agenda, and then one of our trustees, one of our elected representatives, is going to actually make that motion to set the agenda, and then we'll call for a second, and we'll have a vote. So, chair will entertain a motion to set the agenda. Trustee Rockford makes a motion. Is there a second? Seconded by Trustee Hahn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. The agenda is set. All right? So, you paying attention? It's gonna come, you're gonna put the work here in a second. So you ready?
A little confused.
I get the hang of it. Maybe you're training yet, because I'm not gonna do this forever. So I'm gonna turn it over to you guys. Is that okay? All right. So we're gonna move to,
You want to, are you want to go executive session tonight?
what's that?
Or you don't want to go executive session tonight?
No.
Oh, you're not.
It's already on here. We're good.
Right?
Yes, we're good. It's already on the agenda. We're good.
All right. No,
Okay.
it's-
Yes, it is. Executive session.
Oh, I got you. Okay. Good to
See,
see that.
sometimes you have to tell, you have to show things to some people.
Strike 4.
So next thing, we're gonna do some, like, basically housekeeping items here. These are things that just have to be done, so it's almost like your chores, right? You have to do your chores? Do you do your chores?
Yes.
You do? What's your chores? Make your bed?
I used to do laundry.
Yeah, used to, you don't do it anymore?
No, it was optional, but I did it.
For me, I have to take all the laundry bags to the laundry room.
All right, very good. So just like you have to do that, the village board has to do a few things before we actually get into the business of running the town. Well, this is actually part of the business of running the town. So whenever the village board meets, we have to keep what's called minutes. We have to keep a recording of what we're doing, so that in the future, if we ever want to figure out and find out what we did, it's there as a historical record. But also, we have to keep a record so that the town people, so that our citizens in town know exactly what we're doing. So after every meeting, we'll record the minutes and we'll prepare a document of the minutes, and then we'll actually adopt those minutes and we'll put them on our website. And so if you want to sit at your house and you want to click on the computer and see what we discussed at this meeting or the last meeting, you'll be able to read it right there from your computer, and you'll know what the village board and your elected representatives are actually doing for you. So for right now, we have to approve the July 7th, 2020 meeting minutes. And so item number 1 on the agenda is just that. So it's the presentation of the July 7th, 2020 meeting minutes. And our elected representatives have been given those. So are there any additions or corrections to the minutes as presented by the clerk?
The only thing that, and maybe I'm wrong here, it says under under new business, group softball, it said board agreed to continue fees on proposed fees, so I didn't think we agreed on it.
No, that's
Where's that at?
Under new business,
Where's the precedent?
board agreed to continue fees on.
should say continue talks.
Oh, continue talks, yeah. We'll
Yeah,
get that.
okay, thanks.
Yeah.
So we have to,
Thank you for that.
No
so
problem.
we have to adopt these minutes, and with that correction right there, that'll be incorporated into it. So with that correction, the chair would entertain a motion to approve the July 7th, 2020 meeting minutes. Is there a motion to that effect? Trustee Gray makes a motion, seconded by Trustee Hahn. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Gray?
Yes.
Trustee Hahn?
Yes.
Trustee Long?
Yes.
Trustee Rockford?
Yeah.
Trustee Tim?
Yes.
So that's 5 members voting yes and none voting no, so that means the minutes are passed because nobody voted against it. And if there was more people voting against it, then they would have passed, right? So we had all 5 of the elected representatives vote for it that are here. So the next thing, just like your parents and everybody else has to do, we have to pay the bills. So to have our village, it costs money to run our town. And we have bills that come in, and so what we're gonna do now, our trustees, the elected representatives, have a list of all the bills, and so they can look at those at any point in time when they're sent to them, and they were sent to them before this meeting. So now we gotta get approval to pay the bills, and so I'm gonna ask them for that approval, and we'll send the bills out and pay all of our creditors, essentially. So, presentation of the bills. Anybody questioning the bills? Any questions regarding the bills? Seeing none, the chair would entertain a motion to approve the bills for payment. Is there a motion to that effect? Trustee Tim, seconded by Trustee Long. Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Gray?
Yes.
Trustee Hahn?
Yes.
Trustee Long?
Yes.
Trustee Rockford?
Yeah.
And Trustee Tim?
Yes.
Clerk treasurer's report.
No.
All right, so we're actually gonna skip around in the agenda tonight. And now you guys are gonna get now we're gonna turn this around a little bit, okay? Now it's gonna be your show. So what I'm gonna ask you guys to do is, if you can go out in front of the board table, because you're here to make a presentation, right? So if you were to come to the village board, we would have somebody speak from the podium. Now, it might be a little too tall for you, so you can stand to the side of it, or we'll just move it out of the way. But what you need to do is you need to tell the elected representatives what your idea is and why you're here, and convince them of what you want the village of Sherman to do and what you're gonna potentially do for the village of Sherman. So is that a deal? All right, so if you guys go out there, just like did you see in like Congress or anywhere, people always testify to the representatives, that's what you're gonna do.
They must want to say before recess and cartoons. Is that-
So we're moving along in the agenda, and we have 2 individuals here. We have Katrina Renee Clapp, and we have Addison Kellenberger, and they are with Girl Scout Troop 6283, right?
6283.
6283, right? All right, and they're gonna tell us what they have in store for us. So the floor is yours.
Well, you obviously already know our names. We're local Girl Scouts who live in Sherman.
We have, for our friends work, we have to identify a community problem and solve it with a sustainable way.
So the problem we identified was in our community there's a lack of exposure to books that that highlight diversity.
To provide a free little library at a new playground so kids can have access to a book with characters that do not necessarily look like them.
We are committed to surrounding this big little library until we would pass it down to another church.
We are here to ask permission to place our library at the Sherman Park.
Okay, does that conclude your presentation?
If there are questions, we have answers.
All right.
That's great.
I will.
What's that?
We pass around the idea. No, the sheet.
Oh, this one right here?
Yeah, what is,
This is it.
oh.
Let me ask the girls first, make sure this is representative of what they're talking about. Is this something, it's not exact, but is this something that you're kind of looking for? Something similar to that? Okay, this gives a good depiction of what it is that they may be looking at. You'll see them around Springfield a lot.
I think Williamsville has one.
Williamsville, I think, has one too.
Rochester has one.
Rochester does.
Yeah.
That's not the exact design, that's just an idea.
We'll give the board members a few minutes to look at the example.
It's a great idea, I think.
Very nice.
Would be great.
Okay, so you have seeked permission to do such, right? And the board members are going to ask you questions if they have any right now. So are there any board members wishing to ask our guests? Trustee
What
Brock?
are you going to raise your funds to?
Part of the Bronze Award is fundraising to either like buy or build the Little Fruit Library.
Yeah. Do you have any ideas of how you're going to raise money?
Well, me and my mom made jam not too long ago, and she is really good.
Like tiny little soaps in different shapes,
Oh,
and
very
we
cool.
could do like a big sale.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Very good.
You have an
Make sure
idea
you-
of where you would like to put it?
I would like to put it by the bathrooms or by the playground, like the sidewalk.
So will you have a regular schedule that you'll be like checking on it, or is it just self?
We like do like a running thing, so we do it every Saturday. That's the ideal time we will check it.
Okay. That's a good idea.
Are these books that you can take home and then bring back?
Yeah.
Can you replace it with other books of the same or similar
Yeah.
content?
And people can donate books for you, obviously, right? Put them in there.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I love it.
You're making it too easy.
She said she can answer any questions that we have, right? So.
Sean, do you have a question about what the maintenance cost associated this might be? Was that very
Add
it to the list. Hey, Bruce.
After the roof.
Well, it sounds like the board is very, very receptive of this idea. And I think that I might just call it for a vote. Should we call for a
Can
vote?
I ask one more question?
Huh? Yeah.
How much did you research how much it's going to cost you to do this?
We still do not know. We have a company that we're waiting for a response. We asked a company for like, there are magazine boxes where you pay for it. We're going to paperback. Yeah. We
We actually-
asked if we could repurpose one.
The State Journal Register actually committed to donating a newspaper box to them that they could repurpose, so that it wouldn't cost anything, and you can just open and close it. And then they would have to paint it and seal it and do a bunch of things to get it up and going. But that's actually their current plan, because that would be easier to secure to the ground, so it wouldn't get like knocked over or vandalized as easily.
Very good. Well, it sounds like the board's supportive, but let's just see how supportive. How do you think this vote's gonna go?
Fairly well.
Very good.
Pretty bashful, isn't she?
So I think it's a great idea too, and I would vote for it as well, but I'm gonna call for a vote. So regarding the presentation by our 2 Girl Scout troop, what was it, 62? 6283 troops, Katrina and Addison. Is the board supportive of moving forward with their great idea and great initiative? Would anybody like to make a motion in that regard? Trustee Gray makes a motion, seconded by Trustee Rockford. Clerk, please call the roll.
All right, Trustee Gray,
Yes.
Trustee Hahn,
Yes.
Trustee Long,
Yes.
Trustee Rockford,
Yes.
and Trustee Tim.
Yes.
So that's 5 members that have voted in the affirmative. They voted for it, which when their measure actually passes, then the mayor, if he doesn't have to break a tie, he can also vote on the prevailing side. So that being said, I would like to be recorded as a yes vote as well. So 6 members of the village board voting in favor, your measure has unanimously passed, and we'll move forward and work with you to implement that. How's that sound?
Thank you, girls.
Yeah,
Okay.
good job. Good job.
All right, so stick around for a few more minutes because we have another great little presentation. I'm skipping around on the agenda, but I want to also turn the floor over to Kerry McKenzie. She is a Sherman resident. Her husband I've worked with on a lot of issues. He is one of the most knowledgeable people I've ever met when it comes to property taxes and all things related. He works for Sangamon County, and there is nobody that can hold a torch to him in terms of what he knows, aside from his wife, Kerry. So, Miss McKenzie?
Yes, sir. My name is Kerry McKenzie. I've been a quilter for over 40 years. And with everything going on with unrest that we've had, I thought that the Sherman Police needed a little bit of support, more support, to let them know that we are thinking of them. So with that being said, could I get you to come up here, sir? I would like to present this wall quilt to your police department.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Turn it around.
Oh, my goodness.
Wow.
Beautiful. That's incredible.
That's awesome.
I've been there.
Yeah.
Wow.
There you go.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, I
That is beautiful.
It also has the police prayer. It's a poem that I wrote. And I will go ahead and read that to you.
Don't turn around, Pam.
Lift it out, I'm getting my glasses on. When you get old, you have to have glasses. Okay, it says, prayer for police officers. Almighty God, I pray to you in heaven up above, watch over our town's police officers, protect them with your love. Guide them as they keep us safe every day and into the night. Hold them firmly in your care should danger come to sight. And I'm going to cry. Give them strength and courage as they serve until duty's end. One more thing I ask, dear Lord, protect their family all life and their sworn to defend.
Carrie, can you stand there with Craig and so I can get another picture? Yeah.
Very nice.
That's incredible.
Thank you.
Very nice.
You have a spot on this, don't you?
Sherman and
That's incredible.
That is amazing.
Very nice, Jerry.
Amazing.
And you got God for No, a little bit more than a year.
Yeah.
I'm getting to retire.
I'm constructed anyway.
Bravo, that's beautiful.
Carrie, thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. That is
Bye-bye.
awesome.
Have a good
Thank you.
evening.
All right, so let's move to the village engineer's report. He has the evening off. Legal is out of town on vacation right now. Village administrator, economic development coordinator, anything to report?
No, that's enough.
No. Residents report, we're okay in terms of moving past that item. We pushed some things back, not for this meeting, so that'll show up in a future meeting, that's tabled. Committee department reports, there are none. The Sherman Police Department, Chief Banger, do you have anything that you, okay? Anybody questions for Chief Banger, Police Department? Nothing? Sherman Emergency Management Agency, Director Mike Mose, maybe a quick report on the storms today and.
Did you say I could take as much time as I needed?
No.
I just followed your example, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mose, moving on.
Everything went fine. Obviously, there was a storm front that went through. The EOC was activated at 3:30. Around 4 o'clock, tornadoes were reported in the South County. Usually when a storm comes in from the west, it'll either split north or south, and we lucked out again and went south. There is damage being reported in Divernon and Auburn, but other than that, it's too preliminary. I think Sean even he was saying he got a couple of customers that have already called in with claims, so. Obviously, I did hear they said 60-mile-an-hour winds down there, so. Other than that, nothing really new to report unless there's any questions.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Mose? Nothing? Okay, thank you. Mike? Public Works, Director Newton?
No report.
No report. Anybody have any questions for Public Works? Anything? Nothing? Okay, moving along. New business, there is no new business to come before the board. Old business, we have 2 items listed. We can talk about the reservation fee program, if you're prepared to talk about that this evening. We can also talk about the petition for stop signs, speed reductions on St. John's Drive by the residents. Sorry about that really fast. So we have a study that's being conducted right now with the traffic in that area. I know we had the speed feedback cart trailer one direction, and now it is capturing the other direction. So we do not have that completed right now. But that being said, was everybody here at the last meeting? So there was a petition presented by a good number of residents that live in the Stardust, St. John's area, seeking stop signs at that location as well. I think there was 37 signatures, is that right?
That's about right.
37 signatures. And so they came forward and they presented those petitions. With the addition of the stop signs that we've put at Old Tipton School Road, St. John's Drive, and Old Tipton School Road, we're also trying to see what that is actually doing for the traffic to kind of slow it down. But their sentiments that they echoed that evening and have echoed to the administrator is that those are actually creating some vehicles to seek an alternate route to try and bypass that some route. Is that correct?
That's right.
So they're concerned about children in that area and cars taking that route. So we do want to take and see what the speeds are and what's happening, and so we've got the speed feedback trailer set up to capture the opposite direction. Outside of that, I don't think there's no action for this evening, other than, does anybody have any thoughts or concerns or anything to add to this issue? Nothing? No?
So basically 3 stop signs then?
Say what?
They want 3 of them there?
They came up with 2 different ideas at Stardust and St. John's, both entries, and Stardust has 2 entries and exits. Stop signs there, or the alternative was to post signage of a speed limit reduction. I think it's currently, what, 30 miles per hour, chief? And I think they were looking at maybe a reduction in speed. There are also no signs posted about children at play or anything else. Those that work in other areas of the village, I know that Public Works Chief installed them over at Birch around that corner, and I think it's been somewhat successful. We don't get as many calls as we used to about speeders through there, and I think the chief has done a great job in monitoring that area as well. We should have the information back on that report from that other side, probably within the next 10 days.
So it's basically they're just concerned about St. John's?
Yes,
right?
yes,
Okay.
because they live right on St. John's,
Okay.
the residents who were.
Well, I think you get people walking around on that street.
Very
Quite everybody walks around, and people are buzzing up and down. And I know we've talked about speed bumps before, and I know it's, is there anything else out there? I mean, that you guys know of? No, that's, and I know it's a pain because of the snow plowing. I just think we would solve things, but I know it's one, it adds another headache. And so.
Well, they don't have those natural dips like some of the other places.
My dad calls them inverted speed bumps.
I had mentioned this before, Bloomington has a bunch of those in their subdivisions. They're what they call snowplow friendly speed bumps. They're about 5 feet wide, 4 or 5 feet wide, so there's not really much of a raise on them. But
Oh, it's a gradual up, but, okay.
So, but if you go over it and you're speeding, you're gonna know it, you know, and they stripe it yellow and it's something we may wanna think about, so if we've got traffic that's not gonna want to slow down.
Well, it'll prevent us from putting stop signs everywhere. So
Yeah.
What's that?
to prevent us from putting stop signs everywhere.
That's the thing with stop signs is that when you start, sometimes you have to, I mean, engineering, most engineers are not favorable to stop signs, right? They think it's an enforcement issue. And stop signs, we've seen it. It's almost like a 50-50 thing. For as many people want them, there's the exact amount that think that they're not needed and they hate them in that area, and it's, you know, that's not the solution. Stop signs do slow people down, there's no question about it. But there comes a certain point where the proximity from a stop sign to another stop sign is very irritable, and would seem to not be actually doing the job that it needs to do. And so other alternative measures potentially need to be sought, right? Signage, whether it's a speed hump, a speed bump, or things along those lines. And we just don't have the amount of staff in terms of the police department to sit on all of these various different problem areas. And so if you're saying it's an enforcement issue, that's fine, but when you don't have a huge police department with tons of guys sitting in squad cars looking to write tickets, and then that's the flip side of it is if you're writing a ticket to somebody in that area, it's a local Sherman resident. So then, you know, then you're the bad guy for, you know, sitting, shooting fish in a barrel, so to speak, of your own citizens and residents. So we're gonna study this other directional traffic, come back with that, have some meetings with the individuals there and see if there's some common ground that can be had, because, you know, I do have a few potential reservations about actually sticking stop signs in. And so maybe there's something that we can find common ground on, you know, with the residents and that they're supportive of. Or we try that, and then if it's not working, then we go to the more severe measure of an actual stop sign. But we gotta do the studies first, right?
Yeah, I don't live over here, but obviously there's no sidewalk, so there's kids in the streets. I mean, I'm not opposed to a stop sign there, but, yeah, we need to get the study in.
There's a lot of elderly people that live in the villas
Yeah.
that walk their dogs on St. John's Drive.
Mm-hmm.
What's even more of concern to me is at that intersection of Old Tipton School Road and St. John's Drive, there's always a utility truck parked on that street, and there's kids in those houses, and I don't know why I'm always on St. John's Drive, but I do go on that road a lot, and I see the kids the balls will run out there, you know, and you can't see them if you're coming from Old Tipton School Road and that truck is there, you can't see them playing and in the road.
Yeah, the residents in that, to the area that use St. John's tend to park on the road rather than the
Right.
right way. And they have large vehicles. One is was one of the bucket trucks, that we
Yeah,
guys see
it's
all the time
huge.
too.
And then when there's snow
It doesn't
plowing, they
bottleneck
have to
that
go
area.
around it.
Right.
Any further discussion? Okay, so let's move back up to item number 1. Do you guys want to kind of get on, you want to talk about this right now, this evening a little bit?
Yeah, I mean,
So item number 1 is the reservation fee program. The parks in the village of Sherman, everything, if you want to use it, it's completely free, always has been free, and always essentially, well, it essentially will be free. But what we're trying to do is move forward with a program that actually, if you want exclusive use of the parks, if you want to book that time, use that pavilion or that field or that gazebo or what else am I not thinking of?
You got it all.
Okay, or batting cages, things like that, then that's exclusive to you. There's an expectation that, you know, that field or that batting cage or that pavilion should be prepared for your use when you book that. Residents want that. They want them cleaned prior to. They don't want to come to a facility that has, you know, weeds that are grown up. They don't want to come to a facility that has maybe bird stuff in it, bird nests, just all the various different things that Mother Nature gives these areas. And so what we're trying to do, especially with the loss in revenues, is offset some of the increasing costs for the maintenance of such things. And so we did a study essentially and had looked at multiple different areas that have fees. Williamsville, in concert with us essentially, Mary Oakley, they implemented a small fee program for the use of their pavilions and their baseball fields and the fields that they have. So the Village of Sherman doesn't collect any fees for any of that stuff as it sits right now. We're going to try and implement that by essentially administrative executive order in some respects, and it's questionable whether that's a function or not. So ceding that ground and not having that fight, if we want to have the discussion as a village board and people want to weigh in on what the actual policy and the fees will be, then that's where we're at in terms of this discussion. I will say that these other places, most places charge, and for us to continue to not charge, I think is setting the village back a number of years. It's just like our tax, just in terms of like our property tax policy that had not increased for, and we don't increase it now. We just capture the essentially the COLA, but the new development outpaces it, and people still don't get a tax increase. But if we're not capturing some revenues, then we're going to continue to get further and further and further behind. And I don't think, in my opinion, that there is an expectation that you can have complete and exclusive use of something without paying some nominal fee. And so the fees that Mr. Stratton and myself had developed and came up with are lower than a lot of places. Williamsville, you know, is our sister town, but even their fees are for the use of their fields are about 3 times larger than what we were seeking. We had some pushback from some residents, so now is the time to actually set these fees or not set any fees. But you've all sat through budget negotiations, you've heard what's going on with the recession, U.S. national economy, the country being in a recession, markets are what they are, the local government distributive fund revenues dropping $46,000, and various different other building permits being off 50%, gaming revenues being off, all of these different other things, and not capturing some revenues to offset these other things that are happening within the budget, to me is not our most advantageous play. So that being said, I'm gonna open the floor up for discussion, we can start talking about this. But that's, and you've seen the fee schedule, it's been out there. We've only had a few complaints regarding it. Most people are just actually paying it and think it's cost of doing business. But that being said, and the floor's open.
I mean, I don't even voice my opinion on it. I'm fine with the pavilions, I get that, but I just, on the ballpark, on the fields, I'm not for it, so that's just my feelings on it, and it's not something I wanna do, so.
Okay.
Well, I think my concern is, they have like the T-ball teams, like the smaller nodes, that only pay a certain fee, like a very nominal fee, but when they're young, just getting started, you hate to, you're kind of like eliminating them from just recreational play, I guess, is kind of what I'm concerned about.
Go ahead.
You obviously have something to say. But, so that's just like, well, you're having just have the local teams, but not like an organized team. Does that make sense?
So let's actually get in, this is what's getting lost in this.
Okay.
The actual fee amount. If you were to reserve the field, it would be $8 an hour, correct?
Right, and every field is usually 2 hours minimum, because that's what their practice time is usually 2 hours. So $16 for every 2 hours. But yes, $8 an hour.
So if you had a team, what's a team? 10 kids, 12 kids, probably more like it, on a baseball team or a softball team, right?
Maybe 10.
You gotta have 9 players on the field.
Isn't it, I mean, down there, back in the day, it was rec softball, so I don't know if they allow baseball down there.
Yeah, baseball plays down there now too.
Baseball games.
They don't play baseball games, they never rent it
Well,
out.
they do practices.
Yes, yeah.
It's the younger kids in the show.
Baseball always did in Waynesville. and-
Yeah, I think at 10U teams down there, I'm not sure where they're from.
Right.
I have no
Just for
idea.
practices, not games.
Just for practice.
Yeah, right.
Just for this year.
So we had some of my very best friends come forward and talk to us about this. And, I didn't want to, I still don't really want to get into, disputing what they say, but I also do want to say what I think, and what I've seen in terms of our side of things. It was stated that this softball league goes for 7 months, right?
Yeah, we'll sit that, so yeah.
Does the softball league go for 7 months?
I'm not the ones I'm thinking of.
I'm not aware of it.
I've
never seen a
never seen
reservation
it
for 7 months.
7
I've
months.
seen 2.5. I think ours is usually, what, 3 months?
Well, I mean, I think some of them do. The smaller ones obviously don't, the younger.
To go 7 months to talk about having 2 practices a week and adding those fees up is, I haven't seen the data to support a 7-month season for an 8-year-old team around here. I just haven't.
Well, the age-wise, that's my concern is, like, the local, like the little kids that are just starting out to practice and play there, I think that should be, I don't think we should.
So what happens is a team comes, or leagues come forward. They go to all these other towns, and you pay a certain fee associated with what it costs to put your kid on that team. And there's the cost of a uniform. There's the cost of, the league may build in insurance if they have to carry insurance. And they would build in the small nominal fee spread out over 10 or 12 kids to actually reserve that field for their specific use for that specific time. What we're talking about is like, well, then who's getting the field? Who gets the field? Especially if we have a conflict.
That's why I just keep going back to just our local.
Wasn't there a softball league there? A rec softball league? That
Who's
should
the
be
president
there.
there now?
Huh?
Who's the president there now? It
Yeah,
wasn't the gentleman that was here? the other night. I thought he was the, that spoke. He's the president now.
Is he the, because Marshall was, now he is?
Yes.
Who is?
He was in the minutes who spoke.
Jeff Kadai?
Yes.
Okay, that-
Oh, I didn't.
Yeah, he took
Tony
over.
said, yeah, he took over.
Yeah, he took over.
But that's my only concern, like everything else I'm good. I just,
So
I hate to,
Their fee, they said, was $150 for their kids to play.
not to like just,
Said $120 for a uniform and $30 for insurance. That's what was said in an open forum.
not the ones that are wearing t-shirts.
I understand, that's why it's like, why is the fee $150?
Just Jeff K. or.
Why is the fee $150?
That's, there's, I mean, from 6U to 10U, they're all different. That might have been one league at 10U or something, but I'm not saying 6U was $130. Nobody said that, or 70 or whatever.
I just.
It was said $150.
That might have been that team, but who knows what their circumstances are.
So here's what I'm saying
But we're
is,
blanketing all
Right,
these
I don't
teams.
think that's probably what
And that's what I'm
trying
saying,
to
every
say.
team's a little bit
Yeah.
different.
right, and so, but here's the thing, this is what we get into, and the problem is we got one guy that works in the village hall
I get that.
and does all the reservations, oversees speed studies, does all the building permits, pool permits.
I'm just
Every
talking
single
about
thing.
like just little kids starting off, giving them something to do for the summer, for 2 months, 3 months, whatever that league is.
Yep.
My kids are way big
Okay.
that I don't know.
So let's just, hold on, let's do the math real
I'm
quick.
gonna say her.
Let's say that how many practices would how many
You
practices?
need to bring him in.
Yeah.
How many
We need to
practices?
sit
Twice a
down.
week.
with him.
Absolutely,
I
I
have
agree.
kids too.
Twice a
I
week.
know, like, when
Everyone's different, I just wanna support our local, just the little kids that are
All
just
the
getting
teams,
started.
Not the
Everybody
all the
does.
Right,
teams that
not the
play
travel,
have
right.
local.
everybody does, but
people in the team.
here's what I wanna get at. How many practices would a 6-year-old team have a week?
Probably once a week.
Once a week. So, if we take, that's 4 practices a month, right?
Right.
Let's say that this league is, how long? 3 months? So let's do 16 times 4.
I know,
No, but here's what I'm saying, that's $64. And let's take $64 times 3 months, that's $192 for that team. And then let's divide that by, how many kids do we have? 10 or 12? 10, let's go with the conservative estimate, 10 kids. That's $19.20 more that a family would pay for the cost of that. And actually, the teams that have
And I think that's too much.
$19,
What if you got 3 kids?
Yeah,
So now
I
it's 60.
absolutely do.
And I know it doesn't sound, but some people $60 is $60.
Well,
Hey, I'm gonna tell you what, I coached down there,
Yeah.
and there's at least 2 kids on my team that we pay their way, because they do it.
okay, but.
I'm just letting you know, I mean,
No.
there are kids out there, there are families.
I just think we have to support the young starting off. Now, if they want to continue on and play and travel, then that's a whole different ballgame. But we have to stick with building, a place for them to get started, I guess, is what I'm.
And so
I don't know who that is.
You think that charging $19.20
Yes, I do.
for 3 months of practice incorporated into a fee is,
So what's the revenue we're gonna make on that?
Mm-hmm, I know.
$2,000, I thought, I don't know what it was.
Well, if you take.
Just that, not
Was
the
that every-
pavilion, I'm all for the
Was that-
pavilion.
Was that total monthly amount for that one team playing, one time a week, 3 months out of the year, what's that?
192 bucks.
192, multiply that by 5 teams. That's your revenue.
What was that? What was it, what I said?
By 5 teams.
That's probably $100,000.
How much?
$100,000, that to me makes it even look,
I mean,
Yeah.
we're gonna charge $1,000 for that.
Okay.
It's not a significant number, like it was like a huge number that this is gonna help save these fields. So you're telling me we're gonna
It's-
lose them over $1,000?
But I
Here's
think
what I'm
you're
telling you,
gonna
I'm
get,
telling you that Sean Newton, Bruce Beal, Craig Banger, the whole entire police department, the equipment, all of this stuff, they want raises. We have to negotiate contracts and increases. They don't wanna work for the same amount every single year.
I get it.
And so if you're not,
You can pick it up from the other teams, I'm okay with that.
what
I'm
other
just-
teams? Then it comes down to a whole administrative type thing for one thing, in terms of.
Are you talking
Who's
about
gonna?
We have,
younger
like-
kids and then older kids?
I'm just talking about there's,
the
there
revenue.
might, yeah,
All
like,
right, do we have an idea of
Because I don't have any young kids, so I'm asking, down there at that park, it's softball. What is the age range of teams that are playing down
They've had it up to 12 U before, and 14 U when my daughters were
there?
playing.
Okay, so
I
6
think
to 12.
now pretty much, when you get over 10 U, the girls are moving on in the softball, and they're joining teams in town.
Travel
and
teams
things
are
like that.
strictly.
It's strictly always been rec down there.
Okay.
There is no travel teams down there.
Right, right.
Now, there might be some that want to practice.
Well,
and
that was my
another-
next question.
That's what I'm saying, that's another animal then.
But how do you, but
Then that's, we'll have to address this and figure this out. then.
that's, as I was gonna say, how do we capture that? Because if you've got
Well,
like,
here's the,
you got a 10-year-old
I
girl
always
from
got hold
Sherman.
of whoever's running the league.
Right.
Because I went to, not rec league, I went to, competitive. So I wasn't allowed to use those dimes, so whoever's running it, I said, hey, is there a dime? And I went, yeah, I wouldn't use it. I didn't want to take away from them, because that's what that's for them to grow and get that.
But then how does the village capture? that?
Wait a second, you bring up an interesting concept, the same thing that Rochester.
Well, now, if they want to do that,
Rochester
then
has
that's
a
a different
system
story.
where they lease or let to the athletic association, whatever that is, the fields for play, all the sports fields. And they pay an amount back to the village, I don't know what that dollar amount is, but they renegotiate it every year. And then they have, meaning that group, that softball league, whoever else, has the ability then to let those fields at their will, to themselves, to others, charge fees, not charge fees, whatever they want to do in order to
Yeah,
capture
we never
it.
charge.
But they also maintain it by themselves too. So they drag it, they gill it, they buy the equipment, they do all the things necessary to maintain those fields. What we're trying to do here, I think, with this is simply, I know it's not a lot of money in your view, and I get that. But what we're trying to do is establish some kind of way in which to start the process of offsetting some of the cost related to this.
and that's the thing, it's not a lot of money. If we were asking for a lot of money, there would be even more, there would be significant pushback. So it's been said like nickels and dimes. Collect some nickels and dimes, so we're not asking for quarters, half dollars, and dollars.
How much is Williamsville gonna be charging for a T-ball team?
Right.
Their field, if you want to use their fields, it's $45, and if you want them to drag it, it's $60.
45 plus 60 or just 60?
No, 45 and 15 more if you want them to prepare it and drag
And
it.
they'll open the bathrooms for you.
And they'll open the bathrooms for you.
So $45 for a, I don't know, what's T-ball, 5, 6, 7 years old?
Is it every 2 hours?
What's that?
Is it 45 every 2 hours?
I think we should, I think it needs.
Well, we can take a vote on it right now.
Well, either that or we sit down with
Yeah.
the president, bring him in here,
Yeah,
let's talk and
just educate
say,
us, yeah, educate us. on-
let's talk, let's see which teams are down there, how many kids we have.
Yeah.
Is this 5 teams, or is there 5 other teams that are down there practicing that we'll gladly pay them? My whole thing is the rec.
I agree.
If we're into the rec, now if we're into these traveling teams, I get it, because we used to have to pay that, but I also knew I was taking on that cost when I put my daughters in that.
Yeah.
Why is going to another town or field acceptable to pay and give all of our money to them and not shore up and make our facilities better? That's what I can't fathom. And it's such a small amount. The batting cage last night, it needs a new home plate area stuck down. That is what was it, $629? $529? That alone, $529 just to replace that by the people that are wearing cleats in there, the netting, the nets, $640 for soccer nets. This stuff, as it sits there and as it ages and it needs replaced and as it gets used, the bathrooms, all of these various different things, the paper products or the things that get broke, jammed, all that stuff is taking a toll on the other parts of the budget. The other parts of the budget is our police department, our public works department, and all these other areas. So the question is, should it just be no, we don't charge for any fields, or is there a fee that we do agree should be charged to offset some of these costs, and what is that? Because that's what, and I actually replayed that video, and it was stated that we need to find common ground and figure out a fee. It wasn't that we need to like eliminate it or whatever. There was a kind of during the conversation and the dialogue,
I agree.
I think there's a baseline that, you know, the stuff's getting used. We just went through the budget last night to replace, or to bring in new rubberized mulch for our $100,000 playground system that sits at Waldrop Park. It's got weeds growing through it. It's been in there for however many years. It's getting worn away, it gets kicked out and all that stuff. To truck that stuff in, because we gotta have fall zones, for that park and the other ones, what was it, $10,000 that we have to budget? So when there's teams down there and they're playing on the field, they're not just using the field. They're on the concrete, they're on the playgrounds, they're in the bathrooms, they're using paper products, they're doing all of these various different things. And I hate to keep getting into this stuff about our budget and how much the village of Sherman does not get in terms of property taxes, but we get less than 1% of a property tax bill. Less than one, you could have a $10,000 property tax bill and less than 1% comes to this village for operations. So that $10,000 home is paying $100 a year for every service that they get. $100. Then you could actually extrapolate this even more. Let's say that you went to County Market and bought groceries and did $100 a week. That's $100 and it's all taxed at 10%. We get a $52 from you for the entire year in terms of a tax. You spend $5,200 and we get $52 from you. Then we went through the local government distributed fund and how we get funded based on per capita, right? And what's the rate now? $97, right? Fell to $97 from 108, and you pay your income taxes. The total tax burden on a person, an individual that lives in Sherman, of what they give back to their village, based on those numbers right there, about $300-400 a year. I mean,
We already know this. I totally, I see where you're coming from, but I just don't agree with this. I mean, sometimes you just don't agree on things, and that's where I'm at on this one.
that's fine. So are you saying a zero fee?
No, I'm saying let's bring them in and talk. I mean, they were not talked to at all from what I understood. But there again, I don't know. I don't see the emails and different things.
Yeah, but why would we talk to one specific person?
Bring the league president in.
Huh?
Bring the
That's
league
what I'm
What about
president.
other leagues? What about any others?
But if you're
Well, in
if
terms
you want
of
to
leagues
support
from
our
other,
local.
if it's leagues from other places, then that sounds like you're going here and you're going there, so it sounds like maybe the older kids, because I think if it's just rec play, isn't it, don't they just play here only?
Yeah, well, they travel around to their smaller communities.
But then some of the communities,
Right.
Okay.
yeah.
And,
No, let's bring them in.
All of the.
so are they charging the other fields? If you go to another small town?
They never used to. I mean, back.
I don't know, that's why,
They never
Well,
used to.
apparently
that's why I'm
they are
asking.
in Williamsburg.
They pay for umpires.
Well, but
Umpires
this
is
is
paid.
all.
Oh,
But
yeah.
they
That's
don't,
basically-
That comes in on the whole fee, you gotta pay for umpires, but it's some kid usually.
good times people.
But that's paid
Not
through-
They're not pay-
Well,
they're not paying for
Yeah,
there's no
that's
T-ball.
paid.
I mean,
That's paid through the league.
like lower.
2 years ago, we had one primary team of softball. And then we had an offshoot come in, and then we had 3 other leagues come in and want access to Waldrop Park. They never knew it existed. And so last year, I got together with the 3 of them by email and phone conversation. I said, okay, you guys gotta figure out the schedule. This is way too complex to have me keep calling everybody individually. You figure out how you're gonna divide up your field time. Because they had not only practices, but some of them had games that were scheduled as well, okay, for an entire day. So they worked out those schedules. So there has been levels of conversation relating to a lot of these things. But I'm not opposed, at your request, I'm not opposed to, I know all of the league coaches, all the presidents, wherever. I can call every one of them, schedule a meeting, and sit down and talk about it, and report back.
and here's what we'll also do, is we have a new young man that's help assistant, college grad and all of that stuff. Very, very good at research, you know, terrible. Gonna have him put together some numbers regarding other fields, if you want to use their other fields, and see what, you know, other entities and other places do.
Get other information.
Yeah.
Sean, do they charge at the athletic club?
We decided not open to the public.
Oh, not.
This time, therefore.
Oh.
Okay.
Now, just to let everybody know, because this matter's pending, you've asked me to hold all checks relating to any of this, so I have not deposited any checks, whether it be for ball fields, in which I received payment from some of these leagues, and I'm holding the checks. I let them know I'm not cashing this check, just in case you to be withdrawn from your account, or any pavilion fees either until, this matter has been resolved at the board level.
So we can move on the pavilion.
Yeah, I think everybody agrees, everybody.
You wanna separate the two?
Yeah,
Do that.
separate the two,
I
Yeah,
have
if
no
you
problem
could
with
do
that.
that would be good, that way we're not holding up the
Yeah,
pavilions.
I agree.
Well, no, we're reserving it, and I'm permitting it,
Yeah, it's not.
and I'm issuing the permit, and we got a
We got no process.
But you're cashing their checks, right?
No, I'm not cashing their checks either
But
yet,
if we separate and you can cash those checks for the
and that's
pavilions,
fine, and that's fine.
right?
I'm fine with that.
Yeah,
Well,
okay.
Don't cash your checks.
Don't cash your checks yet, okay.
Not until it's in ordinance form.
Okay. We'll have to wait till it's in an ordinance form. That's okay. They're still gonna have to pay the fee. It's just a matter of we don't cash a check.
All right.
It's
Stimulating
like-
debate. It's fun. Two meetings, 2 meetings straight. We've had some fun.
That's what we're here for.
Okay, civic, we do not have any civic organizations on the agenda seeking recognition. Brings us to the public comment period, and the sign-in sheet is located. Is it out there?
Oh, there's nobody here. They've already spoken.
Oh, exactly. All right, so there's nobody seeking recognition under the public comment period. We're gonna go into executive session. We're gonna take no action when we go into when we come out of executive session. So since the village hall is not conducive for us to essentially vacate to another area or ask you to stand outside in the, the rainy storms or whatever, just know that we are going to go into executive session. We're going to discuss some matters regarding land acquisition and negotiating of such. And then we're going to come out of executive session and we're going to simply adjourn the meeting. So nobody has to stick around if you were thinking there was going to be any action items to be acted on with nobody in the chamber. So that being said, the chair will entertain a motion to go into executive session for the purposes of, and it's under 5 ILCS, I have to look it up, but it's for land acquisition. So, motion to go into executive session. Motion has been made by trustee Gray, seconded by trustee Vaughn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it. We are in executive session. We'll stand at ease to have the chamber clear out.